Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Boxing Social podcast in association with Betfred. Make sure you like, share and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest boxing news and views. And I'm delighted today to be joined by David Price. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. So we're just here to, obviously you are now retired, a retired boxer, but we're here to sort of look back on your career and your time in boxing. A long time. But we'll start off with how you first got into boxing, how old you were and how it sort of came about.
Yeah, I had a little go at boxing when I was about 11, I think I was. A few of the lads who lived by ours were going to a boxing club about 3 miles away on a bus, so I went a couple of times and just fizzled out really. I kept getting put in to spar with older lads because of my size, and didn't really like getting hit in the face and that, and I just like
Who does?
left and went back, but I resented myself for not sticking it out, and I was always like, oh, why didn't I just carry on going? Because I don't know, just beat myself up for not going back. And then I loved football, played a lot of football, and I got a trial for the Liverpool schoolboy team, not Liverpool Football Club, like the local school's best players type of thing. And I was like, this is it, this is me in for the footy. I'm gonna start playing footy for Liverpool schoolboys and this and that. And anyway, long story short, I didn't get in, and then one of my mates was going to the same club I'd already been to, and I went, I'll come with you, and it took a bit of courage to go, because I thought I'd walk in and the trainers would be like, where have you didn't come back, because you was crying when you got it when you was 10 or something, and that was in my head. And obviously that many kids going through boxing gyms like a conveyor belt, they obviously didn't remember me, and I just went in and just absolutely fell in love with the sport then, everything about it. So that was 14. I had my first fight at 15, and then I just got fast tracked into the Young England camp, the England juniors, when I was 16 or 17, I think, and then it just went from there.
So that was quite a quick turnaround from starting to getting in the England squad.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think part of it was due to the fact there was not much competition about, and but I was obviously good, and they were like, let's get this lad down, and I went down there in 2001, I think 2000 was the first time I went, the beginning of 2000, and I just went on like a weekend with a few other boxers and got the train down and all that. But I was in their system then, and they weren't having like centralised training as often then. So the next time I went was a few months later, and then I went a year later, and then I had my first England fight. So I think it was only my 10th fight when I boxed for England, but that was in 2001, and their plan for me was the Beijing Olympics. So that was the plan for me, but I kind of like accelerated a little bit and got better quick, and they put me through to try and qualify for the Athens Olympics, but I missed out by one fight. I was only 20. I say only 20, you know, all develop at different rates. So I was a young 20, nearly got to the Athens Olympics.
And the heavyweights are normally a little bit older.
A bit older, yeah, and you know, but like I think I half had it in my head as an insurance policy that my Olympics was the Beijing Olympics, so I kind of like accepted the fact I didn't qualify and used that as a bit of a comfort. But in hindsight, I probably should have qualified. I just didn't have the experience and the maturity, the mental maturity to do it. But then it was obviously the Beijing was the thing then.
You were a very, very good amateur, decorated amateur, Commonwealth Games gold medalist, Olympic bronze. Do you look back on your amateur days with fond memories and the sort of memories of travelling around? Because it was a fast track, as you just said.
Yeah. I do. When I think about it, I do sometimes. To be honest, I try not to think about the past that much anymore, because we all do it. We all think of the past and go, oh, they were better days, and you know, it was good times. But the reality is, you look back through those tinted glasses, and a lot of the time it was fucking hard. We were travelling to London, staying in Crystal Palace Lodge thing, hated the journey, hated being away from home, hated the shitholes we travelled to around Europe and all that. So sometimes when I feel a bit depressed, where I'm like, oh, those were the days. I go, no, hang on, let's just remind myself of what I really felt at that time. I couldn't wait to turn pro and get away from that. But it's one of them, you don't appreciate it until it's gone, do you? And we're in the WhatsApp group, all the ex-England lads, and some of them really do dwell on it. And I'm like, oh, forget that. Come on, just fucking move on. But when I look back, I think, you know, I don't think of what was. I'm one of them. I'll think of what could have been sometimes, especially when the Olympics is on. I hate watching the Olympics because I get frustrated at my own experience of the Olympics, even though I won a medal. I could have done so much better, and I'll never have that chance to do that again. But people are like, well, look, you won a medal. But human nature is, you tend not to focus on the better. You a lot of people their own worst critic, and when the Olympics on, that's when I do get a little bit like, oh, could have been a lot different, that, you know, but it wasn't, and that's why I just try and move forward.
Who's in the WhatsApp group with you from the England team? Who's most active on there?
Who's active on there? He was a good amateur, Neil Perkins. He won a world bronze medal in 2005 in China. He was a really good amateur. He's active on it. There's Tony Davis. He's the Bahrain national coach. There's not many pros though. You know, we've gone to Paul and Stephen Smith are in it. They're not very active on it. Everyone was active on it at first because everyone was like, this is fucking boss. We haven't seen each other for ages. We're all firing in, having a laugh and all that. But then it just got a bit tired, and it's just like, it's still going a little bit. Like Kevin Mitchell was in it, Sam Webb was in it. You know, they're all doing all right. That's the main thing. It's just a little bit of a catch up.
When you were, younger, and you were obviously having to travel for the England squad and stuff, were you still training a lot in Liverpool? Were you doing most of your training in Liverpool?
I was. There was different stages of the amateur game. For pre-Amir Khan Athens Olympics, we got put on like an elite training program to try and get to the Olympics in the September 2003. So at that point, we were in Sheffield or London for 4 days a week. So it was pretty much just away all the time. Before that, it was more in the club, and you'd just go to the centralised training every now and then the Commonwealth Games and the Olympics come round. It was a lot more just in the England setup, because I'd come home to my amateur club in the Salisbury, and like I didn't really have a structure there because I was hardly ever there. So they were just like, look, you're never here, we're focusing on the kid. I'll go in, they train me and that, but they could never put a training structure together for me because it was too staggered. I weren't there enough, so we couldn't really put anything proper together. But the England setup was good. It was really good for training, the facilities, especially when we moved to Sheffield, because it was based in London, and all the northern lads hated London, going down for the trip. We love London now, it's great, but I didn't see that part of London. We'd just get the train to Crystal Palace and be like, oh, fucking hell, this is shit. But London's sound, obviously, you know that now. And then when
You probably didn't get to be tourists and get to
we
explore
didn't see all that. We didn't see all the good parts. And then when they offered us Sheffield, and they were like asking for opinions and, will you go? And I was like, everyone just say yeah to Sheffield. It's closer. You can drive there. It's new. It was just better all around. And I think they were going anyway, but they wanted our take on it, and we all pushed for it. So we moved to Sheffield then after the Commonwealth Games, and that was like another full time for 4 days a week. Great facilities. It was really spot on, and it's only when you turn pro you realise how good you had it. You had everything at your fingertips. The best physios, the best strength and conditioning trainers, the best facilities, best equipment, best coaches.
Did you have all your meals cooked?
All the meals, everything, it was all proper. But you take it for granted. And then when you turn pro, you go, wow, what that, that was just like prime preparation for any athlete, and it was really good. And I think it's got better since, to be honest. I think they've even upped it again because from what I've heard, they've made it more bespoke for each fighter. Whereas me, the training was great, but I'd do the same training as the light flyweighters, the Cal Yafai, the Darren Langleys. They'd have me doing 2 runs a day with them when I was at heavyweight, when really I should have been a little bit more, focused on strength and power and bits and bobs like that. But it's all learning for everyone, I suppose. Hindsight's great, isn't it?
Well, before we move on to you turning pro, we have to talk about the infamous amateur fight with Tyson Fury.
Okay.
Obviously, you got the win. What memories do you have from that?
When Tyson Fury...
And why are you not talking about it every single day?
I know, yeah, I know. Well, he come into the Echo Arena the other week when I was working on Channel 5. And I didn't see him because I was working. He come watching Nathan Gorman and got off, but I thought, when I see him, when I say to him, I'm the only fella in this arena to have beaten you, which I am, which I was. I think the only fella in England or the world to have beaten him now, I think. But yeah, at the time when he appeared on the scene, he turned up in Sheffield at a training camp, and he was only 17 at the time, and he turned up in a fucking big Mercedes E-Class or something. I was like, who's this kid? And he turned up, said to Frankie Gavin, I'm here to take David Price's Olympic place, and I was like, who the fuck's this? So he had like long curly hair then, and I was like, all right, yeah. I mean, he just looked at him and was like, never heard of this lad. So I've done a bit of tech sparring with him, and I thought, I'm gonna hit him hard here and let him know. And I tried to, but I couldn't. And I was like, Normally in the past like that, when people would come in, big young kids who were a bit of an upstart, I'd at least managed to let them know, and I couldn't, because he didn't let me. So anyway, he was there then, and next thing I knew, I went to a Clinton Woods fight in Bolton against what was his name, the light heavyweight, Glenn Johnson. So we went up, and the lad I was with, seen Tyson Fury in there with his dad and his brother, and my mate went like that, he's the man about me, and he was like, no, I'm the man and all that, and I just kind of laughed it off because I hadn't heard or seen it. But then I come home from there and seen a few of the lads, and they went, have you read the boxing news? And I was like, no. So he'd written a letter into the boxing news that week saying he was going to batter me, he was going to do this, going to do that, take me place on the Olympics and this and that, and I hadn't seen it. And then I'd just been with him previously, and I was like, wow, but it didn't half get me back up, and I was fuming, and I was like, right, training starts tomorrow for the ABAs, because I knew I'd fight him in the ABAs then. So I just got right on the road the next day, and started training for the fight, which was in the October or November, and he was 18 by then. But in the meantime, he went to the World Junior Championships and won a bronze medal, and was unlucky to lose apparently. Now, I knew then that he was going to be decent, because I knew how difficult it was to do that. So I thought, okay, I might have my hands full a little bit, but come fight night, I just... have you seen the fight?
I've seen clips of it.
The camera quality is not great on it. It's like, at the time, you could get like DVD fucking camcorders, and it's like, it's a bit shaky in that, but
a bit grainy.
It was a good fight. I watched it the other week, and I was like, what a good fight that was for both of us. I boxed well, and I had to, and he was so good for the kid. And then after the fight, he lifted my hand and shook my hand, come in the changing rooms, and I said, look, don't be writing to the boxing news and this, that and that, and give him a bit of a telling off. And he was like, no, it weren't me or something. He was a kid, you know what I mean? And I was only 22 myself, so still quite young. But after that, I thought it's squash now, but it weren't, because it just carried on. He was then trying to get me place still wanted me place in the Olympics. And I think what happened, I was going to World Championships and he'd gone away and boxed for Ireland somewhere. And because he'd boxed for another country, he couldn't try and qualify for the Olympics. It was like a ruling or something. So I think GB just said, look, you can't because you've went and boxed for Ireland in this tournament and the IOC won't have it. And obviously at this stage I had great momentum then. I was on a great winning streak. I was just finding my power in my right hand. I was starting to chin people and knock people out, stop people. And it was going well. But he would have given me a run for my money at that stage, I think, definitely. So yeah, the last person ever to beat him. I might call him out to come out of retirement.
He's looking
for a comeback fight, isn't he? Would people still watch? He probably would,
yes,
believe it or not.
Yeah, they would. I would.
Yeah.
So, before we talk about what happened with you and TYSON in the pros, or almost happened, turning pro, how much of a tough decision was that for you? Did you just know it was the right time, that you wanted to go pro? You said you were eager to turn pro. What made that time the right time?
I just had enough of the amateur game. I just had enough of what I was talking about, the repetition and the monotony of going up to Sheffield and travelling around Europe to these shit old places. No disrespect, like, but they were. Some of them were, and especially the accommodation we'd stayed in. And I was like, I feel like I feel like I've achieved everything I've needed to, because my big thing was to become an Olympian. The medal side of it was just a bonus. I just wanted to be an Olympian, and I got that. And when I got that, it was a great feeling. But apart from winning the medal, then there was not much really left for me to achieve. I'd won 3 ABA titles. I'd been to World and European Championships. Plus, I'll be honest, international amateur boxing is hard. It's fucking competitive and it's hard. And I was glad for the break of having hard fights all the time when I first turned pro. When they were putting these Latvians in front of me and all that, I was like, oh, this is a bit easier than fighting these like world top 10 fighters every fucking other month or wherever we were fighting, and going on training camps, sparring with each other like fights. And I thought, yeah, I'll enjoy this. And people did used to say to me, you know, because at first I was a bit embarrassed about some of the opponents and some of the people who were around, who'd been in the game for a while. They were like, look, enjoy this while you can, because it will get hard. And I was like, yeah, all right. Frank Maloney got me in a Latvian in one year in Newport. We fought, me and Tony Jeffries, and he got 2 Latvians over. And I hit mine after like 10 seconds, and it hit him in the eye and uppercut, and he fell on the floor and was like, oh, no, jibbed it. And Jeffries battered us as well. They got called the Latvian Lemmings, they were called in boxing news. And then it turns out one of them was a referee in Latvia. He was a boxing referee. Weren't mine, it was Jaffa's one. He wasn't even a boxer, he was a referee, and they just flew him in. So that was like that was one of the reasons why I was ready to turn pro, because like, this is like, it was so tough, you know, honestly. And then I thought I'd turn pro, and it's a change. And when I did turn pro, it was a brilliant feeling, you know. I just felt, not the actual turning pro, it was the new professional boxing, the new training, everything was just new and fresh, and I was just high on life for the first 18 months, because it was great. And then obviously it starts getting a bit more serious, a bit more pressure, title fights, and it becomes your job again then, even though it was your job in the first place. But yeah, it was great at first. I look back at that time and think that was a good time, really good time, when I first turned pro, just because of how happy I was, you know, and that's what it's all about, isn't it?
And it's all new. It's
all
new stuff.
Yeah, it's fresh.
How soon after turning pro did you think that you settled into the pro sort of life, the fights, you started stepping up the fights? When did you start thinking, right, I'm sort of established as a pro, things are getting serious, and you were adapting to it?
It probably wasn't until I turned pro in 2009, after about 2 years, I'd say, because the first the first eight fights or something that I had, they were what I'm talking about. They were just weren't like, they weren't testing me. And although I was active and I was earning, and you know, that was what I turned pro to do. It was a job, and I was getting no satisfaction really from it. I was getting no intrinsic value from it, no feel good. You know, it was just like not going through the motions because I was working hard, but I just felt I was staying there. But it was a matter of just trusting the process, which was something I probably struggled with in boxing, to be honest. But because it will come. The better fights will come, the better opponents. And then I had like a couple of fights in 2011, and one was an American called Rafael Butler, and another one was Tom Dallas, and it was after them two wins, two quick knockout wins, my confidence started growing. I was going on training camps with people who were fighting either of the Klitschko's, and I was doing well in the sparring, and I just started to feel a momentum build then, and I felt like, right, I'm going to start becoming established now, and people start talking about me more. People did start talking about me more, and it just grew from there then.
So at that point, were you sparring world level sparring partners?
Yeah, pretty much. Also sparring with other fighters at the same level or a bit higher in Britain. You Derek Chisora's, Dillian White. I'd went over and sparred a couple of Klitschko opponents, Daniel Solis, who was a brilliant amateur. And it was disappointing against Klitschko, really. He broke his knee or something in the fight, but I pretty much dominated him in sparring, and that gave me a massive boost. So I was getting my confidence because of the level of opponents at that point. I was building my confidence through what I was doing in the gym. And I was starting to make a bit of a name for myself, obviously, around the gyms, and people were starting to sit up and take notice.
What would you say, when you're looking back, was the best point, the highlight of your pro career? Because you won various titles, you beat big names. Yeah. What one moment stands out as the sort of your favourite?
The one that always stands out for me, which was the best feeling and the biggest like euphoric type of feeling, was the Audley Harrison win, because it was packed out in the Echo Arena. It was the biggest boxing attendance at the Echo Arena at the time. We were two Olympians. It was an Olympic year. He was a big name, and it was over in like just over a minute. Now, boxing, any boxer will tell you, and you'll see it yourself. If you watch any fighter who wins a fight in the first or second round, the celebrations are a lot more intense, shall we say, than if they stop someone late on, because you can see a stoppage coming late on, unless you come from behind and with a lucky shot. But if you finish a fight early, sharpish, rug from under the feet, and you're in, your job's done and you've won, it's like a massive relief as well, because the job's done, it's won, and that's why there's like that euphoric celebration. And I remember walking out to You'll Never Walk Alone for that fight, and the whole arena was singing it, and obviously the Liverpool connection and all that. I remember walking, I nearly started crying walking into the arena bit when I could hear it, because I got emotional, and it was just a great time. And after that fight, it was when like the hype thing kind of exploded, and obviously didn't go on to do what many people thought or might have or hoped have, but them nights I can remember and take with me, because that was great. But also another great night for me was when I beat Dave Allen, because that was like a poetic victory for me, that with Dave Allen. So because everyone had wrote me off in that one, and Dave Allen,
you were a massive underdog.
Yeah, big underdog against Dave Allen, and I was like, okay, and Dave Allen was Mr. Popular on the socials and all that, and that felt good. That felt good to me. That so I'd say them two were me two highlights.
What would you say was your sort of lowest moment in pro boxing? Obviously your first defeat would have been hard to take, but what would you say at what you thought you were at your lowest point?
Do you know what? I mean, I've got some stories to tell about my career, like, because there was lows and there was highs to tell us, no. So I've had, you know, obviously the second Tony Thompson fight was tough to come back from, and I don't think I ever quite regained what I had before that. Took a bit of my soul, I think, a little bit, that one, or it took years to come back, that mojo, because that took me mojo really, that one. And that fight was lost before the fight, in the gym, in the training, the pressure, my mental health was just weren't there. I was just ill mentally, not like where I need to see go on medication or whatever, but I was suffering bad with anxiety at the time, but I didn't know it, but now I do, because I know what it is, and people can speak openly about it more now. But back then, you know, you're deemed as, I don't know, a shit house or fucking whatever, because you've exhausted yourself mentally before the fight, and it's tells in the fight. So that's what happened with that fight, and that was tough to come back from. And then I signed with the Sauerlands after that, and it was kind of giving me a bit of hope, and a way back. But then I lost the European title fight to Erkan Tepe, the Turk, and I got knocked out cold in that fight, and I'd never been knocked out cold. That was bad, because that was a heavy knockout, and I was concussed after that, where I went in the changing rooms and I didn't know what had happened. Didn't even know. I knew I'd fought, but I didn't know how I'd lost, and that was scary. That was a shock. And again, it's the weeks and months after it are tough and lonely, and you know, you're feeling shame. And I took defeat too much to heart. I know I did. I took them very personally, and I shouldn't have, but I just did, and it's just the way it was as a fighter. One of my worst things, I'll tell you this one. I fought in Germany, in Stuttgart, in 2014. It was June 2014, so I was getting married like 3 weeks later, and I took this fight at 10 rounder against the Ukrainian, and it was fucking boiling hot, right? It was a heat wave in the middle of Germany, so it was like the other week here, maybe a bit worse.
Germany have proper heat waves.
Wow, it was hot, honestly. So goes the venue, and the venue was like in Schwerin, like an all East German town, an all school hall, and got in the ring, and after about a round I was like, wow, this is hot in here. And it was the most tiring, laboured performance, and it went 10 rounds, just my luck. The only time I went 10 rounds, I think, apart from the Dave Allen fight. But honest to God, I was in shit street, and I was like, wow, I'm struggling here. I drank that much water through the fight. I nearly pissed myself, because I was just guzzling water. So got out the ring, got back to the changing rooms, and I laid flat on the floor. I was like, I couldn't get up. And the Sauerlands came in and were like, what's up? So Tommy Brooks was training me at the time, and he trained like Evander Holyfield and all that, and he was like, when they went out, he was like, hey man, don't be showing those guys you're tired, man. You need to get, you know, as if like they were going to fuck me off because I was tired. I went, look, this isn't tiredness. I said, I can't cool down. So I had heat exhaustion anyway. I had heat exhaustion. And I wasn't diagnosed with it, but I know it because it took me about an hour to cool down. I had my feet in a bucket of water full of ice, right? You can't even put your hands in a bucket of ice water for longer than 10 seconds, but it felt like lukewarm to me. But people were starting to get a bit like, oh, is he all right here? And I've seen fighters get carried out the ring with the heat exhaustion. It's a serious thing, like. I was under a cold shower anyway, eventually it cooled down, and then I just spewed up everywhere then. But that was my worst experience in boxing, that. Don't get me wrong, I weren't like depressed after and all that, but for the days after, it was like, that can't happen again, because it was bad. But that was worse than getting knocked out, like, honest to God. And then going forward after that, I always made sure it trained in as extreme a heat as possible, because the lights are on you,
Yeah.
you know, and any fight I had, I'd make sure the gym had extra. I'd got all the heat lamps put over the ring in the rotunds when I was fighting Dave Allen, because it was a July fight, and I said, if it's hot in that ring, I want to be ready for it. And look at it, it was air conditioned. But that was like, whoa, that was the worst thing that happened to me in boxing. That.
I bet your training partners loved you having all the heat.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, that was 2014. That. So that the lowest one probably just for, you know, for having like a prolonged effect. Probably the second Tony Thompson fight. I'd say yeah, it's definitely yeah. Because that like I said before, that fight was lost before the fight. You know, pressure on myself to win. What am I going to do if I don't win? My head was gone really. And then I went over to Canada to train with Lennox Lewis, and they just took me to the well straight away. And already I went into a state of overtraining pretty much straight away. And we're talking about AJ changing trainers and all that. I went to Lennox Lewis after onesie feet with me trainer Franny Smith at the time, and they changed my style completely. They had me bouncing on my toes on. It just weren't right for me. It was just the worst thing I could have done, and I do regret doing that. You know, as much as a legend as Lennox Lewis is and all that, it weren't the right decision for me at the time. It should have been better the devil, you know, do what we were doing in the first fight, but just stay switched on. But I went looking for the answers when the answer was there in front of me, which is why I can relate a little bit to what AJ's gone through and looking for and trying to find, you know, the answer, when it can just be you've already got the answer, just do it just a little bit differently.
Is that why you went over to Lennox Lewis? Was it because you'd had the defeat and you just thought, I need something different? Is that what the mindset was?
He reached out to me, he messaged me on Twitter and then phoned me and said, look, I want to train you, I want to help you beat this fella in the rematch. Now, Franny was training me and was a great coach, and we had a great thing going on. He was like, look, I'm open to people coming in and helping, because he come with me from the amateurs, and he was like, I'm okay with people, you know, bringing a different dimension. In fact, he recommended it before I'd even lost. So he wanted me to just leave the rematch and let it go, and fight Martin Rogan for the British title, get me Lonsdale belt outright, and then go on from there. And my ego wouldn't let it. The fighter in me wanted to just reclaim what I had straight away. And it's like, you know, it's just that mindset of wanting everything yesterday. I should have just been a bit patient, you know, and just, it all happens at the end of a boxer's career. The majority of them, it all happens. Tony Bellew, Derek Chisora, you know, Tyson Fury. It's all happened for them in the last 3-4 fights, where that's been the one where it's all just, it's like, it's made them, it defined them. But I didn't have that idea in my head. I wanted everything then, so I wanted the quickest route back to getting to where I was getting, when really I should have just trusted the process and just done it the other way, but I didn't. So here we are.
Thompson did fail a drugs test. That wasn't the only time that happened to you after fighting an opponent. How frustrating mentally is that for you, having fought people who then go on to be proved to be doping? Does that affect you mentally then? Because essentially, whether the result gets overturned or gets, you know, as a no contest, or whether it doesn't, you've still lost to them, but they've been cheating.
Yeah, it did. It did at first, but then when it happened the second time, I done as much kicking off about as I could, without going and standing outside Parliament or something. But I just thought, you know, I said a few things, and then I thought, you know what, my best bet here is to just let this go, but in my own heart as well, instead of not mentioning it, just, it's gone, you know, it's done. But when I first found out, it was like, why have I had to wait 2 years to find this out? because it may well have saved me a bit of anguish. You know, still would have been there, but it might have softened the blow a little bit to go, okay, that explains something. But it didn't, and I was very vocal about drugs in boxing and all that, but now I don't even read about it, because it's just it seems to be happening, and it just gets, you know, no one takes any notice anyway a lot of the time, so I've stopped caring really about that.
Now, earlier we were talking about your fight with Tyson Fury in the amateurs. There was a fight ordered as pros for the British title with you and Tyson Fury. How close was that to happening? And if it had happened, how do you think it would have played out?
I think at that time I'd have beaten Tyson Fury. I think I'd have beaten him. Now, he was a bit reckless at the time. He'd just gone with Peter Fury, but he weren't quite as polished, and he was a bit reckless, and that was when I had great momentum, and I think that was my best. I think it was my best time to beat him. I don't know whether I would have. I think it was the best chance to beat him was there or just before there. I don't know how close it was. From our side of things, it was close, because it went to a pace bid, and Frank Maloney come up to Liverpool, and I had like a deal with Frank Maloney where I was like a co-promoter with him, so we had a split thing going on, and I had a good thing going on with Frank Maloney. With when it come to the business side of things, and it was all good, and we've done well. So the Fury fight was like, right, we're going to put a purse bid in for it. So I think he worked out he was going to bid something like just over 400 grand for the fight, but that was a lot of money for a British title fight. Probably is now. You know, I'd only had 11, 12 fights or something, and so would he. So the plan was win the purse bids, put it at the Echo Arena, this, that, the other, and it was all laid out. The purse bid was ready, and then I think Frank sent someone to Cardiff with the bid in an envelope to make sure it got the hand delivered. And then on the day the bids were opened, I got a phone call that he'd withdrawn. But I had heard at the time that his baby was in hospital, and he'd been eating loads of shite and gone overweight and this, that and the other. But I think Peter Fury probably had the same. Look, Peter Fury knows his boxing, and he's still the same now. Peter Fury, he won't take fights that aren't necessary unless they've got massive upside. And he's the same with his lads and with Huey. You know, yeah, and it wouldn't take much for him to pull a fighter out of a fight, because everything's got to be right. And I think at the time he probably thought, what do we gain from this fight? Now, let's wait. But I wanted it then, and was like, don't want to wait for it, I want it now. And it was close. It would have happened after the Tony Thompson fight as well, to be honest. I think that was when it was going to happen. Because when I seen Tyson, we were talking about it, and he said it was after that fight we were ready then. When he fought Steve Cunningham, it would have been then. But just obviously it didn't come to him.
Do you look back? You say you don't like looking back, but do you look back and think you'd wished that fight had happened? Things could have gone differently, because we see where Tyson Fury is now. Having had that fight and win, if you'd won it, on your record, do you think that things would have gone differently? Yeah,
of course they would have, yeah, because it would have just given me an extra level of confidence and belief and everything else. So, of course it would have. But I don't like looking back, but I do look back. It just doesn't mean I don't do it, because I do. You know, I have my moments, and it's I don't know whether to beat him though. I don't know whether, but if it would have propelled me onto bigger and better things. But I will always maintain this, and you've got to be true to yourself and honest. I don't think I had what it took to be a world champion. I just don't think I did. Maybe better management, and you know, like I'm saying, the confidence growing, the belief growing might have proved me otherwise. But I just don't think I had the engine to be a world champion, because I fought small as a heavyweight. I couldn't fight long enough for me size.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I couldn't for me size, and because for whatever reason I couldn't, because my defence, I didn't have the energy or the stamina to sustain a long defence with my feet. So my defence is take two steps back and then tuck up, and then they can let the punches go, and then that's when one will get through and you get an hit or whatever, you know, you'll get a buzz. Or so because I've analysed all this in my own spare time, so, and then that goes on to the next thing, having the punch resistance to be heavyweight champion, because I didn't, and part of the reason I didn't was because I couldn't fight long. You know, not many heavyweight fighters will get it with a quality shot and not get knocked out. So as far as getting punched in the face is concerned, okay, I can probably take a punch as well as a lot of people, but it's the not getting hit is the thing, and riding the shots and using your size and tying people up properly. When I fought Derek Chisora hit me early, up close, club as I was trying to grab, top of the head there, bump, made you know, buzz me a little bit. So they're the reasons why I don't think I would have, which kind of gives me comfort in a way, because it makes me think like it just you know, it stops the wondering what if, you know, and it's good to just, it's kind of liberating to be honest with yourself. It's hard at the time because when you're doing it, you don't want to admit these things, because that's when you're getting into your own head. So you're like, well, he's calling me chinny, he's calling me gas out, cheeky bastards. But then when you've finished and you're not a boxer anymore, you know, say what you fucking want. I'm not a boxer anymore, but really, don't say what you want, because I still can't punch. But yeah, it's just, I started doing it towards the end of my career. It's kind of lowered my expectations, and it just felt so much better, because I was a perfectionist. And I had a fear of failure, and the two of them together is not good for a sportsman. Being a perfectionist is like, it's like a hindrance, like having OCD a little bit, where I'd get out of the ring sparring and think I'd sparred shit. So I'd have to video all the spars, and then I'd have to watch them and go, oh, actually, that was okay. And that was my way of getting around the perfectionism thing, because it was never a good thing. Now you've got to give yourself a pat on the back. I think at times, you know.
Definitely. When you retired, officially announced retirement in 2021, you hadn't been in the ring since 2019. Had you been thinking over that time that you were going to retire? When was the decision made that you were going to retire? When did you know in yourself it was time?
I tell you, when I thought about retiring first, so in my head, I'd retired after I fought Christian Hammer. I went, I'm not fighting anymore. I've had enough. I weren't happy up in Sheffield with Dave Corwell. I didn't like the situation I was in, travelling, and I didn't really. We come to a point where we weren't really gelling anymore, and he'd admit that as well, Dave. You know, so I mean, we sound like we you know, we're all good, but it just on a professional level at the time, it weren't working for me. And I was getting frustrated. I weren't having any fights, so I had nothing lined up. At all. And then when I got that fight, I come in out of shape and lost, and I thought, right, I'm retiring now. And it felt great. I was like, oh, I don't have to fucking worry anymore about boxing. But then my bank balance just started falling dramatically. So it was time to fight again, and get the gloves back on. But the first time since that one I thought of retiring was after the Dave Allen fight. Part of me was like, do you know what? I'd had the Povetkin fight, I fought Kuzman at Wembley, and then I fought Dave Allen, I fought Cash Ali at Tongue. I had like 5 fights, and I'd gone from being near enough. Sorry about that. That's what happens outside. It's Friday tea time. It's about time that started there. Well, yeah, so the Dave Allen fight, yeah. So I'd had a good run where it ended okay and all that, and I thought, right now, why not go out on a high? I was buzzing after that fight. I was like, sick of having them fights where I'd lost and I felt like shit. I'd lost 6 times at that point. And I went, why don't I just go out on a high? But then I got a call off, someone phoned me, can't remember who, and it was, mentioned the Usyk fight in Chicago for me. And my words were, look, yeah, but it's going to have to be cash out money because I'll retire after this fight. I'm not having any more fights where I'm having to, where I didn't want to go back to, right, have 2 more wins and then get another big fight. Oh, you've lost. Because I knew I couldn't cut it at that level. The elite level or just below elite again, and that was down to like accepting your level a little bit. And I was getting no younger. I think I was 36 then. Yeah, I was 36. So the Dave Allen one was like, okay, but then obviously the Chisora fight happened then. And then the Chisora fight only happened because Joseph Parker got bit by a spider. It's just mad the way it happened, and it like come to me, and I knew it was going to come, and I was fuming because I weren't ready, and I was like, oh, I was literally like, you fucking bastard. I thought I deserved this fight with notice based on my last 3 wins, and I had to take it because it was like it was too good a deal to not turn down, and I negotiated in a comeback fight on the basis I lost, and the comeback fight was, look, the comeback fight was good money. I don't know who it was against, but it would have been good money, and that stood until I retired. That was there. That was there until I retired, and so I literally turned down that money, give that money back. But it was when obviously COVID and all that. I just started thinking, do I want to fight again? Was the question. And then I set a business up. I started investing in property and things like that because it was always about the money for me, boxing. Towards the end, the love for it had gone. It was about getting everything I could out of it. And I was like, I've done all right here. I feel like I'm at a roulette table and I've got my chips. What do you want to do? Do you want to cash them in or risk it all again? And it's me health at the end of the day. And the more time went on, and then my business started getting a bit busy and things like that, I was like, you know what, I don't really need to fight anymore. So, don't get me wrong, I could have earned a lot more money boxing than doing what I'm now, but I just found when I'd stopped training in the gym with that intensity, my all-round well-being improved. Me mental and me mental state, me emotional state. You know, my family were noticing a difference in me mood, me energy, everything just felt lighter. So I thought, now's the time to do it. And that was when I got a phone call to speak about fighting Hughie Fury last year, and I said I'll get in the gym because yeah, maybe. And I'd done a few days and I was just wiped out, and I thought I can't do it anymore. It's the training, it's killing me, and again affecting my mood and everything else. So I went out, it's done now. I'm retiring, and I told them. And then I went on holiday to Marbella with my mates and come back with booze blues, beer fears, come back with beer fears and announce my retirement. I thought I can't fight again if I feel like this. No, when he's young. I went on a Derek Chisora, what was it? John Fury thing. And he asked, and I went, yeah, I'm retiring. And then that video come out and everyone knew then. So that was that. I had I had nowhere else to go. I had to retire, but it was the time. The time was right.
And how are you finding life post-retirement? You say you've got properties, heating business. How are you finding life now?
Great. Really, better anyway. I'm enjoying this more. But don't get me wrong. I do have moments where I think about fighting again. I can't help it. I was with Carl Frampton the other week, and I said, I only need to go for a run, and I feel like I'm going to get back in the gym and start getting in shape and this and that. And he went, he started laughing. He said, when Kiko Martin has won the other week, I went for a run the next day. So it must just be in us. And you can't hit a bag without thinking of fighting again. So every now and then I'll get in gym and put the bag gloves on. And after a few days, I start getting me timing back, and then I'm like, you can't help but think of fighting. It's just in you. But the reality is, I won't.
Not going to come out of retirement? A lot are.
I know, a lot are, yeah. No, I'm not, because it just does nothing for me anymore. It wouldn't do anything for me. I'm then just enjoying normal life, really, you know. But I was saying to you earlier, the novelty is starting to wear off of being a normal working man. Come the weekend, you'll have a drink and, you know, you can chill out and that. I'm starting to think, you know, I want to start getting myself back into a little bit of a better, more of an athlete's mindset, but more just to focus on what I'm doing in normal life, because everything else will flourish then, rather than just being, you know, average job, 9 to 5 and then weekends, live for the weekend type of fella. So, but it's good, everything's good, and I can't complain. Like, I'm lucky. I said before, a lot of fighters, and me included, worry about what they're going to do after the boxing career is over, and I've fell into something which I'm enjoying, and you know, I think I can do okay with. So I've been lucky.
Happy days. Well, before we finish, just a word on, obviously you're a proud Scotsman. Liverpool boxing is thriving at the moment. You know, you've retired, so you've stepped away, but to see how good the talent is coming through in Liverpool at the moment in boxing.
Brilliant. It's great to see. And it's expected, obviously. It's not surprising. There's just, again, it's a conveyor belt, Liverpool, for boxing. One of the things for me, though, with the amateurs coming through is the local paper. No one really buys it anymore. The local paper used to be the hub for where you'd see who was coming through. You'd see your name, you'd see the picture, and you'd remember it. Now, I don't know any of the amateurs coming through because I don't know where to follow it. I was thinking about it the other day, and it's a shame, really, because when we were amateurs, a lot of people knew who we were just through buying the Echo. No one buys the Echo anymore because it's becoming a bit of a rag, really, and no one really buys it. And Nick Pete used to, you know, Nick Pete used to be brilliant with the amateurs in the Echo. He wouldn't half push you and raise your profile. These kids haven't got that now. There's social media, but I don't know where they are or who they are. And I'd like to think someone will set a page up following all the amateurs, so we can just go, oh yeah, he looks good, I'll follow him, or whatever. It might even exist, but
if not, that's an idea.
It's a good idea, yeah. And the pros, you know, Peter McGrail, fantastic talent. Thomas Hart, fantastic talent. You've got your Callum Smith, your Liam Smith. Again, we're talking before about fighters. It all happening at the end of the career. I mean, Beefy's not that old, but he's coming into his twilight years, and the big things are starting to happen for him right now. So yeah, it's exciting times. Always good in Liverpool, and I think one day, once we get my own house in order and all that, I'll get back involved in boxing. I'll get back involved to a degree, whether it's coaching, being a bit of a mentor, bit of management. You know, I've definitely got something to offer. But when I've got, it's time consuming. So when I've got the time, I will do that. But as for now, I'll just enjoy being a fan and go to the odd show, but mostly just watch it on the telly in the house. But I want to try and go the Ben Eubank fight, but
good luck getting tickets.
Good luck with that. Message Frank Smith and he went, yeah, I'll see what I can do. And I went, I like me, yeah. Don't take a layer back.
Yeah, they've already gone, I think, there's tickets,
yeah.
But it'll be good to go. Well, thank you for your time. It's been great chatting to you.
Yeah,
thanks. For joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Make sure you stay up to date with everything boxing related on the Boxing Social podcast with Betfred.